Sean, I want to ask you about expanding healthcare capacity. We've talked to a handful of different places where we see that they have reduced actually reduced capacity around their healthcare operations. I think part of it is out of safety concerns, maybe not knowing exactly kind of different tactics they can take. But what are the, I guess, can you compare and contrast, expanding versus contracting healthcare operations right now for tribal economies?
So, acknowledging that every situation is going to have kind of its own specifics, I'll try to stay within the guardrails of how my thinking might more generally apply. And perhaps in order to do that, I'll frame it with respect to what Jim Bullard of the St. Louis Fed laid out in his recent detailed blog post. So the way Jim thinks about this is, look, your GDP before this happened was, say for a tribal economy, it's $1 billion, right? If roughly half of that GDP is essential and half of it is non-essential, and you make the decision to really restrict the non-essential activity, you've basically cut your GDP in half very quickly, right? Well, what's left in that 500 million of GDP will be a fairly substantial share of it will be healthcare, right? Because many of those activities will be deemed essential. And to the extent that you can put resources into that, quote unquote, invest into your essential healthcare activities, ideally you would get some growth in GDP as a result of that and essentially help mitigate the economic impact of this crisis. And also, in addition to mitigating the economic impact, you should arguably be able to favorably mitigate the health impact of this crisis. The rationale for quote unquote flattening the curve is, look, we get the number of hospitalizations required as a result of COVID-19 at the peak below what we estimate our peak flexible critical care capacity to be. So if we can increase our critical care capacity by investing in flexible facilities for healthcare, you accomplish 2 or 3 goals at the same time.